Hey everyone, so today I want to show you how to make draggable components super easy in Unity. And this is an example of what it's going to be like. Basically you have this add button, you can click on it and it's going to randomly generate nodes that you can drag all over the place. If you click on hide, it'll hide all of them, and obviously it'll show them if you click it again. So yeah, let's get into it. Oh, and really quick, I just wanted to say that a lot of this code is inspired off of Hackett Dev. I'm going to be leaving his channel in the description. First things first, you're going to want to make a resources folder like this one down here, and you're going to want to create a note prefab. This note prefab is going to have the note script attached, and to this note script you are going to drag a note component, which is a sprite renderer, and a text mesh. So you're just going to drag these into here. That's your text mesh and that's your sprite renderer. So after you've done that, all we need to do is actually go ahead and create some scripts. So let's start with the draggable one. The draggable component is super basic. Our start and our update I'm not even going to go over. And what's actually important is these guys over here. So we have the on mouse down, on mouse up, and on mouse drag. Our on mouse down, all that it's doing is it's setting an offset between where you actually clicked on your note and the position of your note. So you can click on any corner and you want to account for that when you're moving them so that it doesn't have some lag behind it. Your on mouse up is just releasing the note if it is showing. And for your drag, it's where all the magic is happening. You're just using the mouse position and the screen point to update the position of your game object. So that's all we're doing. If you want to check for boundaries, you can do something like this. And this is basically just getting the boundaries of something else and using it to clamp the position so that your note cannot maybe go off the screen or off the table or something. But I don't have that set up for this example. Okay, so now we can go and take a look at the note component. And our note is just extending from Draggable, so it'll have all the same functionality that Draggable has, but it'll have this additional functionality on top of it. So we have a hovered over variable, which is going to be important, so just wait for that. And then we have our sprite renderer, which if you remember we assigned via the inspector, and we also assigned the text mesh. So we're just setting our scale right away. And then in our initialize, we're actually using all the information that we grabbed from our notes generator. We'll get to that in a second. And we're assigning it to our text mesh. So this is actually going to get written on screen. The other thing that is happening is we're randomizing the position of our notes. If you remember, the notes are just getting generated somewhere random on the screen. And wherever that gets generated is defined right here. So right now, these are the variables that I'm using for my X and Y. This just controls how far along the X-axis it can get generated and how far along the Y-axis it can get generated. So you can change those if you want. Mine is pretty big right now. And then all you do is you set the transform of the text to the same place. Then we have our update. And our update, we're checking if we're hovering over. And whether we're hovered or not is just handled by these on mouse enter and on mouse exit methods. So we're checking if the note is showing, and if it isn't, we don't do anything. But if it is showing, we just set hovered equal to true when our mouse enters our note object. And when it exits, we set it equal to false. Now we use that over here for the growing and shrinking, so that if we're hovering over it and we are still not 25% bigger, we're going to slowly increase. And if we're not hovering over it and we have previously grown, we're going to make the note shrink. So super basic. If we go take a look at the note generator, it's very similar in the sense of it is very, very basic. We have this sprites array right here, which we are defining from the inspector. So if we go back to our sample scene, you'll notice that we have this notes manager object, and it's just an empty object that has both the notes manager script and the notes generator script. Now in here, this is our sprite array, and you can assign to it all of the sprites that you want for your notes. So that's why we can have different notes, and you'll see I have these 3 different options right here. That's where you assign these, and we're using those when we call generate to randomly pick a sprite from our array list and then randomly pick different information for our text mesh from these lists right here. Now I'm using a switch here because I have different levels in the game that I implemented. So based on what level we are on, which I set previously, we're going to actually generate different information. And these are just placeholders, of course. You can fill them with whatever you want. Then after we have randomly generated our information from both the random sprite and the random facts that we're grabbing from the lists, we just call the initialize method from our note, which we saw previously. And the last thing that we do is we offset the Z so that the next note is not actually stacked on top of it, because you don't want them to be on the same Z axis, so that you can actually drag both of the nodes. Now, if we go look at the menu button, this is what's allowing us to generate the node. And you'll notice it's super basic. We have a showing Boolean, we have a reference to the notes generator and to the notes manager. You've seen this before. They are both on the same object right here. This notes manager holds both the notes manager script and the notes generator script. And then the canvas has the menu button script, and I assign via the inspector both the note generator and the notes manager. And we have two methods. One of them is for the add button. So what it does is it sets the state to showing. It is showing all the notes. You don't have to do this. It's just for my demonstration here. Whenever I add a note, I want to show all the notes. I set showing equal to true. I set the level. And again, you could randomize this, or it could be based on some other behavior. And then you have to instantiate the note prefab from the resource. So you're grabbing it, instantiating it, getting the note component, and then generating it. And this is just going to be happening every time that I create a new note. And the generate, as you saw before, is going to randomly generate the information. Then I add it to my notes manager list, which we'll look at in a second. And that's basically our add button. Then our hide button is this trigger. It's checking if the Boolean is true or false. So if the notes are not showing, I want to set them all to showing. And if they are not showing, I want to set them all to hidden. Okay, so finally, we have the notes manager. And the notes manager is very simple. It has an enum for whether we are hiding or showing. We have the notes list and then a current node. Now this current node isn't actually doing anything right now, but you can do different stuff based on whether you are actually holding the note, right? So the most basic version is this, what I have here, where we are making an instance of the notes manager because we only want to have one, and if we have one, we're destroying this one. And then we have this add to notes list, and you saw this before. We're adding all of the notes that we generate to this list so that we can call hide all and show all. And these methods allow us to just show every single note and hide every single note. And that is basically everything there is to it. You can just go over here, run the project, and now whenever you click your add button, you will see notes. They have randomly generated facts on them. The sprites are randomly generated, and they are also randomly placed on your screen. And they can grow when you hover, and they shrink when you don't. And if you hide them, right? Oh, and I guess the last thing I didn't show you guys is how the buttons work. All you have to do is create some text mesh pro buttons. And then to these guys, you can add this on-click functionality where you basically just drag the canvas in here, and it allows us to run functions that the canvas has access to. So we can do the add note for the add button, and you can do the same thing for the change state. You just drag it in here, you go to menu button, and you say, oh, I want to use the trigger. And that's basically everything. So yeah, thank you for watching.